children are struggling to read a word, they need to decide which strategy they could use to help them read it. We encourage the children to use their phonics as their first main strategy for reading a tricky word. So for example, with these words, we can use our sounds. K, l, a, clay, st, r, a, stray. However, sometimes we cannot use our sounds, and these words are known as tricky words, words that children just need to learn. For example, the word asked. At the end of asked, the children can hear the sound t. They just need to learn that this is in fact ed, making the t sound. Again with people, you can hear an e sound within people, but there isn't the e grapheme. The children just need to identify that this is a tricky part and learn the word as asked and people. Children can also look at words and identify the fact that there are words within the word. So for example, with drawbridge, there are two words within one, draw and bridge. Children could also start to use the strategy of chunking with the word goblets, gob-lets. Other strategies that children can use when they are struggling to read words include looking at the pictures for clues. This is a common strategy for children who are in Key Stage 1. Other strategies are for the child to leave the word out in the sentence and come back to it to see what word could go in that position in order for the sentence to make sense. In order to ensure the children have a good understanding of the text, we ask the children different types of questions. The first question is about retrieval of information. We ask the children a question where the evidence and the answer is on the page, and the children literally just need to retrieve and pick that information up from the page. Other types of questioning include inference. Inference is about digging deep. It's not just about the words on the page, but what does the author mean? What else is the author trying to say? And going a bit deeper within the text, using their knowledge of what has happened previously and what might happen in the future. The language of the text is really important. The author chooses particular words so that they have an impact on the reader, and therefore the children need to understand this, as they can then also use those words in their own writing so that their own writing has an impact too. Other questions about the text include the structure, the build-up of stories, or the layout of a non-fiction piece of writing. The reasons behind why the author has chosen to structure the text in this way are really important for the children to understand. Questions about the viewpoint of the text could include the viewpoint of the author and their opinion on things. Could also include the opinion and viewpoint of characters within the story. This is really important as the children can then start to empathise with characters. And finally, questions that are related to our world, our culture and history are also really important so that children can understand traditions. Children often understand the words written down on a page, but going down into a deeper level of understanding is quite a tricky concept for the children to grasp. This is why we use an iceberg. We place the words from the text at the top, and we encourage the children to go below the surface to think about what that might actually mean. What is the author trying to say? So for example, in Mr. Stink by David Walliams, there is a section at the very beginning that gives us a lot of information about the main character. Mr. Stink stank. He also stunk. And if it is correct English to say that he stinked, then he stinked as well. He was the stinkiest stinker who ever lived. These words can be placed at the top of the iceberg, and then the children can try to think about what these words actually mean. What do they know about the character? Well, they know that he's quite smelly, but they can go even deeper than that. Why is he smelly? What type of person might he therefore be? How might other people feel about this character? Getting the children to think about this in a deeper way really does develop their understanding of the text and can make their predictions of what will happen later perhaps quite accurate. Inference questions for children who are a bit younger could be just focused on characters. What characters say, what thoughts the character might have, but also the feelings. The speech could come directly from the text. However, quite often the thoughts of the character and the feelings and emotions of the character may not be portrayed in the story, and therefore the children will have to think, based on what has happened before, based on what the character is saying, how the character might feel and what they might be thinking. In this book, Bright Stanley, the fish is the main character, and Stanley is trying to find his friends and isn't having much luck. It comes to a point in the story where Stanley is in a dark cave. And so here, at this point, children could be thinking about what Stanley might be saying to himself, or maybe to the other creatures that live within the cave. And also then the children could be thinking, what's going through his mind? He's saying these words, but he might be feeling quite different. And then, how is he feeling? With the older children, we encourage them to try to make a point about the text. For example, with the story of Cinderella, one of the points may be the stepsisters are mean to Cinderella. We then try to encourage the children to think about the evidence in the text that makes them think this. So we encourage the children to look for this evidence throughout the text. So for example, on page 8, we may talk about the fact that she's doing lots of chores, and so the children would use that as part of their evidence. On page 11, there's no invitation for Cinderella, and the ugly sisters are laughing at her. Page 13, they spoil her dress that she would have worn to the ball. And then the children then need to explain this further. They've made their point, but they need to back up what they're saying and explain it a little bit further. And so the explanation for this would be, this makes Cinderella feel sad. However, her fairy godmother comes to make her dreams come true. We introduce this to the children as peeing because we are making a point, we are finding the evidence, and we're getting the children to explain it a bit further. This can also be seen as a visual representation for a burger, with the fact that the evidence is the meaty part. The evidence is the bit that really does back up what they're saying and is the most important part.